Monopoly has control, he thought. A disheveled-looking man in his mid-40s, Ralph had piercing blue eyes and stood about 5 feet 9 inches tall. The son of a Jewish banker and a homemaker, he had been born in 1926 in the free German mini-state of Danzig, under Polish administrative governance but also under the shadow of Adolf Hitler's rising Nazi state. Growing up, Ralph had become accustomed to anti-Semitic slogans, taunts from children, and dodging into alleyways to avoid potential conflict. Fortunately, though, he and his family had left Danzig in 1938 to settle in New York City, where Ralph attended school, worked odd jobs to help his family make ends meet, and became a U.S. citizen. After graduating from high school, he served in the U.S. Army and was stationed in the Philippines during World War II. In 1948, Ralph took part in the Arab-Israeli War. He traveled to the region under the guise of doing farm work, but in actuality took up arms for the Israelis, ignoring the fact that the United States, under a Neutrality Act, had forbidden its citizens from participating. Ralph was not one to sit passively by while others acted. Pulling open his front door, Ralph called out a hello to his wife Ruth and his 2 sons, Mark, age 12, and William, age 7. He was looking forward to eating a simple dinner with his family and perhaps playing a board game with them afterward. Ralph had met Ruth, the daughter of famed economist Leo Rogan, when they were both students at Berkeley. She had been studying for her undergraduate degree, and he had been a PhD hopeful. Ruth was petite, smart, and as interested in social and political causes as he was. Together, the two had marched against the Vietnam War and with Women for Peace. Ruth was one of the founders of the organization's Berkeley chapter and had overseen countless meetings and phone trees. Years later, in 1988, Ralph would learn that he was among those whose political involvement at that time had come to the attention of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which had begun examining, among other things, his loyalty and monitoring his whereabouts. That evening after dinner, Ralph's son suggested playing Monopoly and eagerly pulled the familiar long white box out of the closet. As smart and feisty as their parents, the boys were more politically aware than most children their age and were precocious Monopoly players. They loved everything about the game: its iconic Atlantic City properties, its tiny homes, its play money, its idiosyncratic tokens. The object of the game was to bankrupt all opponents and be the last person standing by acquiring real estate and charging rent. As players made their way around the board, they acquired or negotiated trades for properties. Then they tried to get all of a like color grouping and build houses and hotels on their monopolies to jack up the rent, thus clearing out the coffers of their rivals. As the boys set up the board and counted out the money, Ralph recalled playing his first game of Monopoly in Czechoslovakia in 1937. His big brother Jerry had summoned him to the game, which at that time he had understood to have only been around for a few years. Monopoly had given Ralph one of his first glimpses of America, then still a far-off land that lived only in atlases and on globes, light years removed from grim Europe. An evening filled with much laughter, shouting, and cutthroat deal-making ensued. Happily, Ralph, Ruth, Mark, and William maneuvered their metal trinkets around the board, past run-down Baltic Avenue, busy St. Charles Place, and Elite Boardwalk. They passed go, they collected $200, they went straight to jail, they drew chance and community chest cards. William, the younger of the 2 Ansbach boys, won the game. Little did Ralph know that this particular evening, as ordinary as it was about to change his life. The next morning, as Ruth prepared breakfast, Ralph grumbled over the headlines in the San Francisco Chronicle. More bad news about the oil crisis. With his boys beside him, absorbing